We've got women leaders in focus all this month, investors. Welcome to Stocks to Watch. I'm Michelle Martin. In celebration of International Women's Day, we are meeting influential female leaders in the mineral and energy sectors. Today, we find out more about a North American company with a presence in Cambodia. Angkor Resources have been in the sector for more than 12 years, and they're working towards mineral and energy solutions across both Canada and Cambodia. They trade on the TSXV exchange with the ticker ANK, and in the US over the counter as ANKOF. And today we meet Angkor Resources CEO Delayne Weeks for an update on the company's projects and to find out more about her corporate journey. Delayne, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you very much, Michelle. I'm really pleased to have this opportunity.
Great to speak with you. You are one of the rare female CEOs in the global exploration industry. According to a recent S&P Global Market Intelligence research report, women occupy just 11.1% of C-suite positions. I'd love to find out what brought you to this industry.
Well, I had been with the company in other roles for, almost up to 12 years, and I had watched other people take on the CEO position, and yes, they were men, and they were younger than I was. So I took on the role because I believed we had to make some changes for this company, and in order to bring real value to our investors. And that was just based on what happened over the market over that decade. As far as the gender disparity, I don't think it's a real consideration. We needed to change the company. I knew the history because I had been involved in social development and on the finance side. And so I was a very large investor. I put kind of my money where our mouth was, and I followed up with boots on the ground. So honestly, I think I was the best qualified to take on the position at the time. And I thought I could bring and make those tough decisions that we had to make to sort of straighten Angkor on a new path.
For other women looking on, and we know it's important for social capital to see other women step into roles because then we know what's possible for ourselves. What do you say to other women in the industry in terms of what it takes to climb the ranks?
Well, climbing the ranks, I think you have to focus on what skill set you have that and exemplify that and use it to the best for the benefit of the company. I'll often say to people, look, we've got a job to do. You need to check your ego at the door, because this isn't about you. It's about what's best in this case, what's best for our shareholders and our company. I think the opportunities come along to when they're supposed to. So if we have to push something too hard, it perhaps wasn't meant to be. But if we roll with it and say, okay, I can find where I fit in here and make the most of that opportunity, I think we find more success doing it that way, regardless of our gender.
You've steered Angkor Resources to considerable success, both in Cambodia and in Canada. Have you encountered specific challenges that you believe perhaps your male counterparts may not have faced?
Well, I think look, what do we say? Women are from Venus and men are from Mars. We handle things differently. And I'm not saying they're better or they're worse, they're just different. So I think I was able to, because I had been in social development for a number of years, because I had been in the financial side, I'm a businesswoman, not a scientist. So I look at how do we move the business forward and let the scientists do what they do really well. As far as compared to men, again, men, generally speaking, will have a stronger overview in general terms. But if we have to lay out the details of how we get to that goal, and again, I'm generalizing, I think women have a better capacity to do that because I think they've been taught to multitask from the time that they're generally young ladies. And sometimes I think that's a real asset in a company like this because we're doing a multitude of projects There's a number of wheels turning, from energy to minerals to Canada to Cambodia. And I think we have the ability to strengthen the company by applying just the ability to multitask well and to delegate when it's necessary to do so.
You've been single-minded, though, in your focus on community development in Cambodia. Why has prioritizing community relations always been important for you?
You know, Michelle, it's a very personal thing. And it's very much about, of course, we're going to do business, but how do we do business? So I worked on a multitude of projects across many nations. And there's always some common areas that will cause problems. And it boils down to how you treat people. It's our sense of humanity. So certainly community, the community development, we're in a foreign country. So the first thing is we need to listen to what their needs are. We need to make sure that we're not going in there thinking we've got all the answers, but instead say, what can we learn from the people that we're working with? And what can we help them in gaining their skill sets? So what can they learn from us? What can we learn from them? The longer I'm at this, I'm immensely proud of what we have, how we've done our business in both Cambodia and Canada. And I think it's been far easier to achieve those measurable impacts in a developing country, because developed countries tend to have a stronger sense of entitlement. Whereas in Cambodia, we don't run into that as much. So I think treat others as you want to be treated. Make sure that your communities are being heard and that we're an active part of making sure that they have a voice.
The way you've run your business has impacted how other mining companies run their business in Cambodia as well. Can you talk a little about how your efforts in exploration have impacted corporate social responsibility in Cambodia?
Sure. I think very much right from the beginning, right back in 2009, 2010, 2011, I mean, we had other companies come to us saying, how do you do this? How do you, and honestly, it was, like I said before, it was just part of how we did business. So it's parallel with everything that we do. But certainly it has set precedents in the country to say, we're not an NGO. We're about ethical practices in every element of our business and making it as sustainable as possible and making sure that there are mutual benefits right across the board. So, you know, many times when there would be a frustrating day, I had a wonderful mentor that said to me, Delayne, sometimes all you can do is set the example, and in due course, the rest will follow.
Wise words. Help us understand Angkor Resources' long-term social sustainability plans.
Well, it's the social sustainability, I think, is the most fun part of all. We've just completed a 2-year financial literacy course with the Indigenous communities. And one would say, why did you do that? Because it was part of our agreement to work with them and hearing them, and their needs were, of course, they're always health, education, economic development, but in their case, it was land security. So microfinance had gone in, and lots of these people were signing agreements that they had no idea what they were signing. It wasn't done in their language. And suddenly, you know, they're paying 40-50% per year in interest charges, and their debt load is more than their annual income. And so it became very clear that we needed to help them get some financial and numeracy literacy in their own language, in their own community, so that they could stop the debt load increasing past a point of no return. So, I mean, that's just an example of things that just seem to be really clear. There's no question about what needs to be done, because that's what they're asking for. And of course, if somebody was going to take your land away or your home away, you're going to get pretty upset. And so to help mitigate that as part of our exploration and our social development, it was to make sure that they had the right resources to move into that. And of course, we still do the education, we still do the health access and economic development, make sure that they have jobs, and then they'll send their kids to school instead of taking them out in the field to work.
Let's switch gears and focus on the business. What can you share with investors about the progress of your carbon capture initiatives in Canada? I believe it was September last year when the company announced expansion plans to increase the capture of flared and vented emissions in Saskatchewan. What progress has been made there?
Sure. Michelle, I'm really excited about that project because we've acquired recently just the oil production and the water disposal as well on that same area where we were doing carbon capture. So what does that mean? It means now we can expand beyond our 30 well pod, if one describes it that way, and go to other surrounding producers and capture their gases. So amongst us, there no longer are emissions from production, but we want to be able to capture the surrounding producers as well and take their gas on. So it's a right thing to do. B, it's a much cleaner environmental solution for everyone. And C, it gives us another couple of streams of cash flow, both in oil production and in water disposal, and eventually in some carbon credits. So yeah, I think there's great opportunity there, and it's not going to be a massive project, but it's going to be really, really effective in meeting those goals. And to me, it's a no-brainer. It's really the only way to go forward. We still need to produce energy. We just need to do it as cleanly as possible. And that's a great example.
And before we let you go, you mentioned a mentor and how your mentor's words impacted you all these years. I'm wondering if you can share some advice to women watching who are aspiring to leadership roles in any industry where they are underrepresented.
Thanks. Yeah, I think again, number one is check your ego. Just put it at, because if you want really strong leadership, you need to move the ego out of the way and just say, okay, what's the right thing to do and move forward? So that would be number one. Number two is accept. I know the older I get, the more I know how little I know. There's nothing wrong with that. If I don't know something, I understand and appreciate that I need to go find the people that do have the answers. So accepting that and teaming up with people that have a similar model, go for it. And don't criticize yourself for not knowing something. And I think the third thing, when you're making decisions, view them as choices. And we view them as choices, then it removes, is it right or wrong, or we do the best we can. This was my decision based on that. And I think that's why we've added this little motto years ago to say, we make a choice. Fortunately, we have choice in our, and you can make your project better. You can make Cambodia better. We can make Canada better. But we make choices, and you recognize your decisions as that. And I think, yeah, for young women or young men that are trying to move up in management, it's okay to be humble. It is. It's okay to admit your mistakes and quietly say, okay, I made some good moves here as well. But really, I'm very much about putting the ego away and just getting the job done.
Just get the job done. Angkor Resources CEO Delayne Weeks showing us how she does it her way, sharing her corporate journey and the progress of the company as well in this special edition of Stocks to Watch. I'm Michelle Martin. Investors, until next time, Thank you for your company.
Thank you so much, Michelle.